classes, tests, studies, work, duties, chores, a variety of different answers all of us would give. But we'd have something in mind. We have usually some kind of things that we know we need to accomplish, and a list of things to get done, whether you write them down or not. All of us, or most of us, have some hope, aspirations, or goals that we're shooting for. Back a few months ago, Jeff Brewer dropped by my office on a Friday morning. Wasn't feeling good. Kind of sluggish, just really tired. Feeling yicky, he says. Yucky, yicky, I can't remember exactly the word. Just a couple months prior, he'd gotten over a case of mono. And we were both discussing probably this is what's come back. He said, I'm going to go to the emergency room later today. And I said, well, let's just go now. I mean, if this is an emergency, no, I'm away. Can go later. So he was waiting for someone special to take him there. And he did. Went in and had a battery of tests done. I think it was the next morning, it might have been that evening, he gives me a call. He says, Steve, they've given me like 4 weeks to live. My kidneys and my liver have shut down. I said, are you kidding me? Because I really thought he might be. Jeff loves the kid. He says, no, I'm serious. Now, if you were to go in and visit a doctor tonight in the emergency room, and he gave you that kind of result, would you think that possibly some of your to-do list would change? I want to talk about clarity a little bit tonight. Not to take away from the things you do, the goals you have, but rather to remind us that 1/12 of this year is now gone by. This is February, actually a bit more than a 12th. And at the beginning of this year, you had goals and ideas, hopes, aspirations, things you really wanted to change this year. Some good things, I'm suspecting. Some very noble spiritual things. I hope you haven't given up on those. But I do know that a lot of times when we start with those things, it doesn't take too long for things to happen. And for us to settle right back into normalcy, if you want to call it that. And to just say, okay, well, this is all I can do, and accept it. And I want tomorrow to be different in my life. And I want to have some clarity about what I'm doing. I talked about this back some years ago, and I'm just coming back to revisit that thought from a different angle. I want to start in James chapter 4. Because as we have aspirations and concepts and jobs and work and all these things, I think it's good for us from time to time to stop and remember what James says to us in this good old everyday Christian book about life and what we plan to do. Verse 13. By the way, Chuck, great points. Thank you for what you said. Kind of gave me some clarity to think about. Come now, you who say today or tomorrow, we will go to such and such a city and spend a year there and buy and sell and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is like a vapor that appears for a little while and then it vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that. But now that you boast in your arrogance, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, what he's talking about. Don't know if that's all of us, but maybe we lean that way. Now that you boast in your arrogance, all such boasting is evil. Therefore, to him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it's sin. Funny how that gets tagged in there so pointedly. Clarity. As we make plans, as we think about things, we ought to recognize along the way that things can change awfully quick. And the most important things ought to have a place in my life to make sure that it takes me to the destination that I really want to get to. And that all these other things don't cloud out the most important. So we started 2014. Now how's it going? Look back at where you're at. Think of yourself spiritually. And maybe it's just time to readjust a bit more. Not your goals maybe, but how you're going about things. And here's another passage. This one quite often was quoted to me by a dear elder of ours some years ago, Jack Baker. I miss him still. Among a few others that have passed on. Psalm 90, Jack used to quote. Said it was one of his favorites. I'll start at verse 9. He usually started at verse 10, but it captures the context. For all our days have passed away in your wrath. We finish our years like a sigh, like, whew, it's over. Maybe you take a deep breath as you're starting. But then verse 10, it says, the days of our lives are like 70 years. 70, translation says. And if by reason of strength, like if you really got an extra measure, they're 80. Yet their boast is only labor and sorrow. For it's soon cut off, and we fly away. Who knows the power of your anger? For it is the fear of you, so is your wrath. So teach us to number our days, that we will gain a heart of wisdom. This is written by a guy that's inspired. I'm thinking he's got a good relationship with God. I'm thinking he understands priorities. I think he understands clarity. And yet, he's crying out to God, teach me. Teach me to number my days. To make sure I've got the balance right. That I'm looking at the calendar or the clock or the whatever, and I'm making sure that everything is done with respect to where I'm going and the God I serve. Now let's look at Luke 9 is what I want to say here. And we'll see how Jesus had this put together. I'll start in verse 27, but I'm not going to read that section, but just calling your attention to what's happening here to grab the context. In verses 27 down through about verse 36, Jesus goes up on a mountain, and as he's up there with a few extra of his apostles, not all of them, just 3, he's changed dramatically in front of them. And he becomes like the God he is. Bright shining. So bright they cannot look at him. And I find it strange, just a little side note, that Peter, James, and John still feel pretty comfortable with Jesus. Well, I just not sure I could do that. But they've been with him so long, it was okay. But they watched that change going on, and there are other things that happen. And then at the end of the scene, he's back to himself, and they go down the mountain. And I can't help but think they've got to walk down that mountain. Of course, Jesus told them they couldn't tell them until after his resurrection. But they kept thinking, wow, that was utterly amazing. And it had to have, at least to some degree, called them to have a little bit more spiritual focus. Now, as they go along, Jesus heals a boy. And then we get down to verse 43. And they were all amazed at the majesty of God. But while everyone marveled at all these things which Jesus did, he said to his disciples, "Let these words sink down into your ears. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen good. For the Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men." The world you've got right now is going to be turned upside down like you can't imagine. And you're going to walk away going, what happened? Just like a phone call. I've got 4 weeks left to live. And you go, what? Readjust your thinking, he's saying to them. Verse 45 says, but they did not understand what he was saying. And it was hidden from them so that they did not perceive it. I find this strange. And they were afraid to ask him about what he was saying. They just watched him on the mountain. That was okay. But now they can't ask him a question. But that's, I guess, how we are sometimes. And then they wrestle with one of the most mundane things you could ever imagine. Who's the greatest? This isn't the first time. Now remember, these guys are from all different backgrounds. You've got fishermen, you've got tax collectors, you've got brains, you've got average guys, you've got everything in here. So along the way, these men have always pretty much reckoned, God, he chose me because, and I'm going to help the rest of this crew. And they all felt that they were the greatest. The rest of them just kind of along for the ride. And they're back at it again, totally lacking clarity, including the ones that just seen Jesus. So easy it is for us, while we're walking with Jesus and beholding the greatness and everything that's going on, for us to just get sucked away in something that doesn't count for anything. And then, after all of that, verse 51. Now it came to pass that when time had come for him to be received up, in other words, he is close to the time he's going to be crucified, that he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem. This is Luke telling us something that can be perceived in Jesus' persona. So different from where he was before, although it seemed like he was always right on target. Always had the right answer. And never a doubt in their mind. But now, even more direct and more focused than ever before. I'm going here. Clarity. This is what I came for. The time is close. No detours off this track. So different Jesus is from the apostles. He's not thinking of even stopping along the way by the Samaritans who don't care to receive him. He's not going to bother with that. I'm going to Jerusalem. This is what I'm up to. Oh, to be like Jesus and have that kind of focus. To know what we're about and to not be dissuaded even by the own guys that are walking with him. So our year's 1/12 gone. goals and aspirations. Maybe you're making it. Maybe you're even ahead of schedule. I know a few of these sweet ladies that come to me and say, well, my Bible reading's doing pretty good. I'm halfway through. I know I should be about so-and-so right now, but I'm about where July should be. It's like, bless your soul. Go for it. Mine's not that good at all. But I'm not giving up. And I want to keep focused. And I want to keep reminding me that I don't have as many years as I used to. There's a movie I saw years ago that had Henry Fonda in it, and his daughter also. In there he was taking the character who had just turned 90, and he's standing in front of this huge cake, and it had 90 candles glowing on it. Blew out all the candles, and I don't remember how many puffs it took. And they were all applauding and whatever, and they said, speech, speech, speech. And he looked at him and he said, I'm surprised that it came so quickly. Life's like a vapor. It just passes so quick. Years part of the way gone. How is your focus? The goals, the direction, who you are and what you're about. The renewed person you wanted to be this year to help change family and friends and bring someone to Jesus. That prayer life that you yearn for. Reconnect. Stand strong. What we say and what we do as individuals and as a church could drastically change the eternity for people we come in contact with. And it is so important for us to remember that, like Jesus did. And make sure that our moments are focused on Jesus. Your life okay? Or does it need adjusting? Are you a Christian? Do you need to reshape things? Do you want some prayers? We sing a song to encourage you to come while we stand and sing.